live, 17 viewers.
Woohoo!
We are live.
We are live.
With new and improved internet speeds because of the cable that broke.
There you go. What speeds are we at now?
It's only 150 here. Right. So 150, but we were only getting 10 last time because of the bad cable. That's how we knew the cable was bad.
Ouch.
Anyways, welcome to How They Get Hacked, episode 37. One less of us today. Mo is doing Mo things related to cybersecurity and movement and career change and, lateral career movement, new career area he's working in. Opportunities, pursuing them and all that fun stuff. So he will not be with us today. We are both a little bit tired when we were talking about that. So we got started now, but we won't. We'll keep with you. We still got a lot of news to talk about.
The sun is not around. It's that time of year. This is your first late fall, early winter with us here at How They Got Hacked. Mm-hmm. We started last year. It was late. It was late winter, right? It was mid-late winter. Mm-hmm. And so welcome to the tired portion of How They Got Hacked, where it's all about, mage cart and no, we don't got no mage cart for y'all. Not today.
No, but this is one that we're going to see a ramp up of attacks because it turns out in the summer the attackers take a break. And I know that because I just spent a couple days at Huntress. I told them, and we'll see what they want to do, and maybe I'll massage this out of them a little more. They have a lot of data. They see trends. And interesting trends, they were showing the trends of Emotet and stuff like that. They're like, oh, look, in June, they just quit deploying. Like, they stopped deploying for June. Like, just this big dip and stuff like that. And they're like, they even talked to how they could see these trends, how people take breaks. They have a lot of statistics for things. It was kind of fun hanging out and seeing how their threat ops works from the back end, how they're basically a knock for files with Huntress, and all the intelligence of how you decipher malware, how you decipher what is or isn't malware, which is, of course, their sauce. And not secret sauce. They're pretty open about how they do things. So I will have it. I have a video I can't upload until they upload the Tradecraft Tuesday video. That's actually what I flew down there for. They have a live show they do once a month.
Nice.
And it's called Tradecraft Tuesday, and they break down the trade. And I participated, and they pull up the name of it was called Level Up Your Security, Think Like an Attacker. So we walked you through scenarios of thinking like an attacker and how to put that together, like the step-by-step how attacker would target someone, specifically in the MSP space. And actually, I forgot I got to plug my laptop in. Got so distracted here. So we get this cable. Oh, there we go. So, thinking like an attacker, one of the assumptions that we kept seeing in the market, we seen it and Hunter's seen it, was people keep thinking they're targeting MSPs by looking for MSPs and Google searching them. And Xavier will tell you right away, it's not how you find your targets. Nope. You find your targets because you grab the low-hanging fruit. You target the tools and them being exposed with weak passwords. That's like the easiest way to do it.
Yep.
It's
the easiest way, for sure.
And until there's not an easy way to find these people, and right now, man, I just did a video on Shodan, dropped it on my channel. There is so much low-hanging fruit. We were just talking about that, and because I was dorking away on my live stream and just dropping in that RFC, the 8.08, the VNC one that shows you unauthenticated VNC sessions. There's 7,000 unauthenticated accessible sessions.
That's just computers. 7,000 computers in the world unauthenticated for you to use.
Like, there's not enough hackers to shut all this stuff down.
Apparently, there's not enough people to clean up the internet. There should be zero because they should be all added to a botnet with authentication turned on.
Yeah. So, they need, we almost need, like, the hero we didn't know we needed is the person who just creates the mega botnet that just turns off things. Like, if you left exposed, I'm not here to hack you, we're just turning it off.
I mean, that's what they tried to do with the Ubuntu stuff. I mean, the Ubiquity stuff. Yeah. SOS hacked router. You'll see a lot of that.
Oh, yeah. What was that guy's name? He had a Twitter account, and he called himself the chemotherapy of the internet. He says the internet has cancer. It's all these people leaving things exposed. I'm the chemotherapy, and I'm turning things off. And Brickerbot.
Brickerbot.
Yeah. That was great.
That was a fun time on the internet.
Yeah.
That was a few years ago. What we should do? We're coming close to the end of this year, but also the end of a decade. We should do this decade in cybersecurity.
Ooh, yeah. That's a good end of the year.
Because, this decade in cybersecurity is very much so cybersecurity. When you look at 2009 cybersecurity and today,
nothing.
it's interesting.
Well, and that's the problem. The security of all these boxes getting popped is because they were set up in 2009 and they were left on from 2010 to 2020. That's how they were getting popped. Because if Shodan would have existed in 2009, that number of unauthenticated VNC servers would have been bigger, way bigger.
At least double. And, you know, I'm still finding boxes out on engagements when I do stuff. Ubuntu 12.
Oh, yeah.
Like on the internet. And, like, when you look at that, right, like that's 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So, yeah, there's just going to be... And No Self said, biggest hacks of the decade. Yeah, there's some. And, well, there's some I'm going to pick out as novel, and a Brickerbot's one of them. The reason it comes to mind is because I thought it was so cool that you have someone actively writing a bot that finds exploits in routers and purposely was bricking them, because some of the problems with the bots was they would try to get persistence, or they'd shut them down. But a reboot was what happens to those people. They go, oh, it quit working. Let me just reboot it. Because it didn't persist through reboots, they would just boot back up. And, of course, because they would boot back up and are exposed again, they would get reinfected automatically. But by bricking them, they had to go offline. They had to leave the internet.
Yep. And that was they're still out there. You still find them, like, to this day.
Mm-hmm. So they're all over the place. So it's definitely a real problem. But someone else had suggested, let me switch over to this, over at the How They Got Hacked topic suggestion over at Lawrence Systems, my forums. Dedicated talk about browsers, plugins, different browsers, good, bad, hygiene, Facebook in a container, LastPass, themes, and unwanted extra plugins.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we need to break down some talks about that, but just in general, Firefox is for my personal use. Chrome is for my business use. LastPass is my favorite way to store passwords, and I like very, very few plugins. Only recently I added the Shodan plugin because of some of the demos I was doing, but I don't know that I'll always leave it there.
So I'm an interesting dude. I run DuckDuckGo on my iPad because it's amazing. They have their own browser for mobile, and you can lock it with your face. It's nice. I use DuckDuckGo as my search, browser.
Yeah.
My search provider of choice. Whenever I do use a desktop, which I do use a desktop, I run Firefox, and I do use plugins. Yeah. And so I use Privacy Badger.
That's a really good one.
I use AdBlock Plus. I use LastPass. I use another plugin called something about a Dark Reader.
Oh, Dark Reader.
Yep. I think that's about it for me. I don't really use anything.
I have uBlock Origin installed too. I forgot to mention that.
I have No. I got AdBlock. Yep. I turned off uBlock. I used to use uBlock.
Yeah. Both those are good. And for me, I use Firefox less because I don't do a ton of personal stuff online. Mostly I'm just reading things. But I'm more privacy oriented if it's something personal, because people always I've gotten crap about using Chrome. I'm like my whole company's in G Suite and it's very business like.
Have you seen the containers in Firefox?
I've not used them.
It's amazing.
Is it like another layer beyond sandboxing?
So it's not another layer beyond sandboxing, but it depends on the lens from which you look at it. So sandboxing from the OS. Firefox does a good job of that already, but then even inside of Firefox, it allows you to have different sessions. You right-click on a tab, and you can select if it's for personal, if it's for shopping, if it's for business.
Okay.
And then you get a fresh set of cookies, and you can have simultaneous sessions going on in the same browser. And so, like, I could be working on something that was personal for my honeymoon. And then, an urgent request comes down the line, and I need to do something for business. I right-click on a new tab, and I select business.
Select the business container.
And now, another plugin that I use is Facebook Container. because Facebook tracks you everywhere,
Yeah,
and
it
you
does.
realize it when you have this Facebook container because it starts to pop up everywhere. Like, hey, we've logged Facebook for you. And you're like, whoa, what are you doing on the IRS website? Like,
And this is something else. Like when I use Firefox for personal, I mean, I don't use Facebook personally. I use Facebook only in here. So I that's why to me, mentally, the easiest way to separate everything, I've never really played much with containers, is by using two separate browsers. They have two completely different personas for me. One is what I'm going to do with my personal life. The other one's what I'm going to do with my business life or things that I want to share. You know, I spend a lot of time in my own forums replying to people and stuff like that. To me, that's business. That's why I'm always logged into Chrome there. Do I post on Facebook? More on a business. You won't find me ranting about politics or a lot of, maybe I'll engage a little bit on things and maybe some social issues that I'll comment on. I'm having some personal conversations, but I don't look at myself as personally on Facebook. Matter of fact, I kind of understand this from the perspective, like if I were just some DevOps sys engineer working in a data center, whatever type of job, I probably wouldn't even have Facebook at all, like at all. A lot of my friends who are in that field, they don't have one. Matter of fact, that's something about even the guys over at Huntress Labs. The guys, the Threat Ops guys, no Facebook. Kyle, CEO, no Facebook. None. They don't log in. But the sales guys do because they have to be present. They have to do stuff. They're participating in forums and things like that, which means you kind of have to be personable and things. So, and that's
so
where...
Kyle, no Facebook, huh?
No Facebook. Not at all. Well, what they do is...
all I need is a picture of Kyle, and I'm Kyle.
Yeah. Well, what they do is, like my friend Chris does, they have a placeholder. They have. I think you can find a Facebook that has no updates that has their name. But yeah,
which one do you trust? The one with no updates or the one with all this update every single day? I'm going to work. Blah blah blah.
Exactly. Go assume.
So just click this link to get all of my latest. Kyle hacked me. That wasn't me, man.
That wasn't me. Yeah. So it's there's definitely a lot there. I can't think of what else for plugins on there, but LastPass is the one thing that can be universally between them. Because LastPass is browser agnostic. It works in a lot of different browsers. Great software. But I also don't load LastPass on my phone. And the reason for that is because a few people have asked me about it. I use my 2FA is on my phone, rolling 2FA numbers. Well, by having rolling 2FA numbers, I don't want the place for my password and any rolling 2FA numbers to ever be on a single device at the same time. It's just a physical layer to keep them separate. So whenever I'm using my authenticator apps, TOTP is always my preferred one, and I have a ton of them on here. That way my passwords have to be figured out here, because someone always asks, well, what if LastPass gets popped? Definitely something to concern with. It seems statistically unlikely, but in the fact that it could happen, let's just say worst case scenario, end of the world, they popped LastPass. All of my critical infrastructure is protected by a separate physical device that doesn't have LastPass on it, that even if you had my G Suite or Google password, it wouldn't, the only thing you'd be able to do is remote wipe and be aggravating to me. But you wouldn't be able to get in my G Suite or Google because you need TOTP. I don't use the push authentication or notices. I use TOTP as my secondary for Google. And not texting either.
If LastPass gets nuked, I'm not the only person with this problem, so I don't really feel too bad. I'm just going to wait for the solution.
Yeah, they're going to go after high-value targets
It'll
first.
be a mass exodus of people saying, hey, come click this link to reset your password.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that you constantly got to keep in your head. It's like, how are you going to mitigate it? And security is all about mitigation, not absolutes. Anyone, what is that? Only Sith Lords speak in absolutes from Star Trek there, And anyone who's speaking in absolute in security, run from them. Anyone who, I'm going to hack-proof you. No, you're not. Just run from that person. They're full of shit. Anyone who gives you these absolute things, it is about putting in best in class, best in practice mitigation. Those are honest answers to security. We're going to do everything we can within your budget. Sometimes it's a bigger limiter to make sure you're secure. We're going to, I'm using LastPass. I'm using second factor. That is good, authentic, good, hygiene to keep yourself separate, keep yourself secure. It doesn't protect you, as we had a table talk discussion, at some point of getting wrenched. Someone go over there and whack you over the head with a wrench and beat the passwords out of you. That's a whole different threat. If you're living under that threat model, that's a different animal, and it goes beyond the scope of what me and Xavier have to advise you with.
Yeah, like if you're getting wrenched, then
that's a whole different thing.
What do you have at that point, right? Like I have nothing that anybody wants to wrench me over. So
that's I am too. Nothing I have is all that valuable.
Yeah, and if I had that kind of valuable stuff, my body, like my actual person, wouldn't be the thing that you need to get it, because then they would come to wrench it out of me, right? Like, I want it to be something else that they're going to attack,
Yeah.
some bastion, some other heat sink that's not my body.
Yeah. So, and then a little bit more on the other side is things like we all have encrypted hard drives that require password on boot. So things like that
Well,
are important.
Some of us. I mean, this kind of does. It has
Yeah.
the trusted something something module.
Yeah. Those do the Secure Enclave.
Yeah, there you
Apple
go,
stuff.
Secure Enclave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do a good job with that. So, as far as like if you took our devices, you also don't get that. Not to mention the TOTP is not on the device either. It's on this device, but this device, same thing. I can remote wipe this. If I think my phone's gone, I can remote wipe it. The phone also has passwords on it. I never use the little dial-y passwords because those are bad. Don't use those, because those people do is they look at the grease mark on the phone, they go, Not to mention the patterns are very predictable. I have a whole talk on OPSEC called Protecting the Digital You, and I cover all the different threats against that type of attack. So definitely thing. And then, someone did point out, yes, you can, and I have definitely played with that several times with Firefox, so you can have it prompt you for which profile you want to log into. That's always a feature I've liked about Firefox, because let's just say there could even be more than one Tom personal persona. So yeah, I definitely think that's good too. Because one of the things you can do, those profiles also have your proxy settings in there. So if you wanted to create a profile that connects via proxy like to Tor, you can do it that way. So you can have different profiles of Firefox. So one will use like proxy chains to go somewhere else, and then you can log out and use the other one with not proxy chains to pivot.
What I will say is that once you get to a point where your operational security is at a high level, where you're blocking ad trackers and you're blocking all this different JavaScripts and all this stuff, so that you're kind of a ghost on the internet, not only does your experience degrade by a lot of places ban you after 2 or 3
Yes.
page entries, because they know you're an anomaly.
Yes.
Basically how Huntress works. It's like,
Yep.
yo, this person has like
No
no
cookies.
user agent, no
Yeah.
cookies every single time he loads a page, and same
Now-
IP address, but like something's weird about this.
And maybe I should do a video about this, because I don't know if you've ever played with this. You ever seen to ruin my browser history or create my browser history?
Oh yeah. Were you? Yeah.
It started as ruin, but someone said it actually creates it.
Yeah.
You can fire up a clean profile, but so you're not clean.
You could be a hype beast. You could be a fashionista. You could be
Right.
a teenage person. Or
Yeah,
something.
and it creates all that tracking history.
Yeah, create some traffic for
Yeah,
you.
so it picks a persona, and you can do it, and then it creates a tracking history, so that way the browser's not the anomaly. But either way, if you're not logged, by the way, just in general, if you're not logged into a Gmail account, you're gonna click I'm not a robot a whole fucking lot.
Yeah.
That is gonna be your internet experience can be ruined, because everyone uses Google CAPTCHA. And it's a constant problem.
If you use Tor, you've already run into some of this.
Oh yeah. If you've played with that at all, especially because some of the Google's basic functions is done by IP address. So when we were sitting at Huntress Lab, we're sitting at the table, and I know which one of us didn't turn a VPN on before they popped a couple Google dorks in, and next thing you know, all of us have to click CAPTCHA again. So that's a thing. That's a happening.
Yeah, I used
problem.
to run some tools on the network at a shared space, and everybody would get captured. Those were back in the days when we were doing lead gen stuff. It was fun. Mm-hmm. We used to have some fun with Google.
Yeah. So talking about that, one of the first links we're going to talk about is I like this, and by the way, this doesn't crack some of the latest iterations of Lux, but it's about cracking Lux in general. And I'm not going to break it down in absolute detail. I'll leave it a link to do the reading, but what I want to show you here first, identifying Lux. Mm-hmm. 2, pulling out the pieces, the header to crack it right here. So we're going to go ahead and pull the header to crack. So you have it, because you can't crack it on the drive. You want to get that in there, get your words list, get your fast phrases set up John the Ripper, set up Hashcat, and have add it. And by the way, it's nothing but brute force here. That's all you're doing. And the latest version, the latest iterations of Lux have even better protection against this. And the reason I bring all this up was because all of this, or converting to Lux 2, if you're worried about you want to increase your security posture, you can carefully choose encryption hash mode and convert partitions to Lux 2 format. And it's even harder to crack these. It's all brute forcing. That's all there is to it.
Shoosh.
People have asked about that for Lux, and this is one of those things. I like how complicated this write-up is because that's how complicated busting Lux is. So if you were to try to grab some of the files off my hard drive, it's just a matter of brute force whether or not you're going to get this really long thing that I type in to decrypt my hard drive when I boot any of my computers. You have to figure that out.
This sounds like people who were otherwise had evidence on devices that were Lux encryptors getting their stuff decrypted sometime in the short future.
Yeah.
And people who may have gotten away with things that are still within the statute of limitation are going to now be because that's typically what happens when something like this happens, where a hacker's like, well, it was encrypted, and maybe they're serving, they're on year 4 of their 7-year term for something they did in 2011 when it was top notch, top of the line, and now, well, you're only as good as your encryption, guys. Unless really this is something that I think that people have to realize, not only in the security space but all over the world. And it's just universal. You're only as good as your encryption. So what your secrets are today, because everything is stored, are no longer secrets in the future. I mean, just by nature.
Well, and this is 3 episodes ago we talked about some of the original Unix people getting their passwords cracked.
Right.
Because the encryption they used
and they
at
had
the time,
good password schemes. By the way,
they had good passwords too.
Yeah.
I mean, their passwords were high entropy.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of the encryption being weaker. So you have to think about all that. And this is also a reason that you have to upgrade. So as I have over the years, the methodology by which I've encrypted 10 years ago is very different than the methodology by which I encrypt today, because you keep up with it, and all my data comes forward, and I make sure any of my old drives, and matter of fact, before, it would never been encrypted. I just dumped lots of my stuff, was just burnt on CDs. When you talk about the my early CD burning stuff, like in 2000s, back then the CDs were like $2, $3 a piece. They were expensive. So you were careful that you copied all that.
My favorite kind of CDs growing up with the rewritable CDs.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you could just be like, eh.
When those came out, those are cool.
Rewrite over this. They were super expensive, though. They were more than $2-3 a piece.
Yeah. So speaking of encryption, and we know how important it is. And so does Facebook. They've had a talk with this employee about this. Smash and grab. Valuable personal info leaks from Facebook. Not Zuck selling it. Unencrypted hard drives of staff data stolen. Car smash and grab ends with loss of payroll details of 20,000 employees. They have 29,000. So, I do see that. So person detailed 29,000 of its employees. Only 20,000 on payroll. That means they have 9,000 interns? Is that what? Do I read that from here? Am I deferring too much?
I think you have to pay your interns now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think they made a rule in California. Either way.
I think it's everywhere actually now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm in trouble.
Allegedly.
No, I don't have any interns. So this is, they're basically, someone did a smash and grab in a car, grabbed an employee's bag containing company equipment with payroll information stored on it. Ouch. Now, the less than clear part is why.
What do you mean? Why?
No. Why did they have it in their car?
There you go. That's a better question.
Yeah, I mean, we know smash and grabs happen. This is one of the reasons I always encrypt my laptop. I don't like the idea that someone would steal my laptop, but I would not be devastated digitally if someone stole it. I would just be financially upset and just angry that someone stole it, but not going on.
Yet another bill.
It's yet another bill versus they have some data that's personal or my VPN keys or anything like that.
When we talk about financial data, right? Mm-hmm. We're talking potential bank account numbers, or EINs or social security numbers.
So definitely an issue there. Zuckerberg does not like sharing data with others. He's got to monetize your existence. That's important. That's their business model. They're not ready for someone else to do it. They said they discipline the employee, whatever that means. And it's not the first time it's happened. These type of attacks have happened a few times against places where people grabbed these. You think about years ago, it was common. People would just leave with the backups. That was their backup. Their offsite backup method was just leave with the backups. And then they leave them in their car, and someone will grab them and then have all the backups. Allegedly, you could even find the old backups in a dumpster somewhere, and allegedly you could run them back, and there's dumpster diving, man. That was good stuff. BMW and Hyundai hacked by Vietnamese hackers, claim reports.
Yes, they have been, and will continue to be, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this is that whole corporate espionage thing that we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about before.
Yeah, attackers allegedly installed a penetration toolkit named Cobalt Strike on infected hosts.
Gosh.
Yeah,
So they're
which they
going
used to.
loud.
Yeah, go loud, man. And used a backdoor in a compromised network. BMW had supposedly allowed the hackers to process network and followed every move, cutting off their access last weekend and in November. BR and TS reporters claim the hackers behind the attack breached Hyundai but did not provide any additional detail about the intrusion.
I wonder, do they use licensed versions of Cobalt Strike, or do they go and use unlicensed versions?
That's well, yeah. That's interesting. I I think there's probably a lot of this going on, and it's quiet. So these hacks are a little bit different because they're after information inside the company. Actually, they're after intel in there. So we don't hear about them as often as they happen, because the goal is you go in, get out, and you never knew we were there.
Right.
So these more amateur, if they go in there and get loud on the network, that's why they're generally quiet and precise, because they're just trying to exfiltrate data. So, speaking of exfiltrating data, that's not what they're doing here. Now, this is, I've seen people claim this, but honestly, this is a double-ended mess if you're following the law. So, ransomware of Colorado IT provider affects 100+ dental offices. So, Complete Technology Solutions was hacked. Complete Technology Solutions was hacked, and allowing a potent strain has screwed up the patients of ransomware known as Sodokibi? Sodonokobi, or R-Evil, to be installed on computers in more than 100 dentistry businesses that rely on the computers for a range of services, and destroyed their network backups and everything else. Now, Kyle at Tradecraft Tuesday, one he did last month, they talked with Datto, a big backup company, about how to go through and harden your backups. And they talked about all the some of it's a little bit of laziness. They leave the backups on the network, so when someone gets in the network, they laterally move over the backups and leave the default creds in there. And they're like, you're not supposed to do this. Because Datto sells you an appliance that is supposed to mirror all the backups, and then that appliance then mirrors it off-site. But if you leave all the default creds and they can get in there, or you tie it to their AD and they pop the AD,
Right.
they laterally move over there. This is the problem with a lot of the designs people put in for the backups. I get it. It's convenient, or use some type of single sign-on service. But these are where some of the ways you can help mitigate against it. Because reality is some users are going to do stuff. But, of course, they pop the IT company, and, well, that's part of the problem, too. No compartmentalization on their part. And this is kind of just another big mess. Yeah, another day, another ransomware, right?
Yep.
But what I say about the mess of it, if you're in a medical place, you have to be HIPAA compliant. Here's the way HIPAA compliance. You have to report data breaches, especially where there's a potential for some third party to see the data. Here's where I've seen people try to skirt the law, and I'm pretty sure if they brought it to a court case, they would lose. They try not to do the HIPAA compliance notification because they're saying a bot encrypted but didn't exfiltrate. The problem is something touched the data, and to me, that means the data was viewed, therefore it is. Now, honestly, if you want to be very realistic, do I think they exfiltrated your teeth x-rays? Not at all. They're not reporting your cavities, you know what I mean, and dumping them on the internet. We're going to dox how many holes Tom has in his teeth. There's no value in the data, so I doubt they're doing it, but I don't think that gets you away from the legal side of HIPAA compliance. You got to tell all these patients. That's
what it boils down to.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to, because I had that discussion with one of these dental offices that called me and was asking about that. I was like, he says, is it true? Because what they were trying to do was avoid the lawsuit. This was when the PercySoft one hit. The PercySoft people, allegedly, I'm only hearing this from a dentist, had told the people they don't have to file the HIPAA stuff so they could save money. But the dental law says, I don't want to be on the wrong side of the law on this, and I don't think Percy's going to survive this.
Right.
Because, they're in scramble mode now, so.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you are in that, you do have to comply, and I would say report. That seems to be the safer side, and hopefully you have insurance for all that. Facebook intends to implement end-to-end encryption despite the DOJ's pressure. I actually believe them. I actually believe Facebook is on the right side of things here when it comes to this. I don't believe they want to comply with the government because they don't like competition. They want to exclusively monetize your data. Matter of fact, I can imagine them wanting to sell data to the government,
Right.
not the other way around, where the government's been really pushing for these back doors. And Facebook, love or hate them, they at least, I think this is a part, like I said, they're actually on our side and they should get our support. They want to keep things encrypted. Granted, they're going to use that information to figure out a way to monetize you. But that's the trade for using Facebook. If you use Facebook, that's why it's free. Facebook is a service. It takes money to run all those servers. This is the problem and why everyone's like, we need a decentralized, open source Facebook. And every one of them has fallen flat on their face because no one can stand up the servers at that scale. They're like, okay, we need a system scalable that can log in 2 billion users with about 1.2 billion daily active users logging in. That's going to take this much compute time. Who's going to pay the bill? Advertisers. Oh, we can't monetize their existence. We want it to be free, just free sharing. I like that hippie feel-good feeling that gives me, but I also know it's just not realistic.
Right.
So they are encrypting, and they're fighting it. So that's, like I said, they're actually, it seems like a lot of companies in the Silicon Valley seem to be on the side of that. So, and Facebook being a big one, they care about.
But we already know why. It's
even if it is self-serving.
Self-serving. That's the word for it.
So a question for the audience here before I jump into this article. I know Xavier hasn't seen it. It's an older movie called Snatch. And I bring it up, and it's not completely needed to have seen that movie. But if you have seen that movie, the references will make more sense to you.
This must be about a ransomware.
Of course, it's in ransomware. But it does have a interesting twist.
We were just talking about how they weren't, exfilling. And now they got a ransomware called Snatch. That makes you think.
It makes you think that, but it's actually a play on words for the movie. Is it part
of this encryption so that the file is smaller so that they can exfil it over the VoIP network?
Yeah. And every time I see this scene, and I just want to watch this movie again. Snatch is just a great movie. But the Snatch ransomware, this is interesting because it's pretty focused. Like, it's very detailed. So they go through here, and one of the things it does is reboot in safe mode and then has its own compromises that are they set special run keys for safe mode. So reboots in safe mode, sets its run keys to go ahead and do that. Then it can boot in regular mode, and now it's bypassed everything. So instead of the usual ransomware methodologies to go through a list and try to shut everything down, it does the opposite. It goes, I can just go in safe mode where all these tools get disabled anyways, kick off all my command switches, dig into here, and really dive deep on this system. It's very complex.
Okay, so this is going to be boob of me. I'm going to say it. How are they interacting with the system during safe mode?
That's why it makes this clever.
I'm like, I thought that was the entire point of safe mode, was that this type of stuff doesn't run.
And that's why they target it like that.
Wow.
So that was what's really clever.
I like Snatch. I want a copy. Can I run it?
Oh, they have a good breakdown here in the show notes. They have the indicators of compromise.
I like that.
And childish me goes over here, and we have play on words. I'm Boris the Blade. Boris the Blade's one of the characters in Snatch at protomail.com. But this one right here, Dick is in my .an.us. There's something I'm using about that. Dr. 666 at cock.li. New recovery robot at pm.me.
Cock.li has been used in other, that must be something else. That's been used in a lot of other attacks before.
What is, well, I'm not going to go there. Man. I'm not going to go there right now.
Yeah,
but they have all the.
It might be a rough one.
It might be a rough one. We'll do that in an incognito window later. But they do have the data exfiltration servers and things like that, and how they're getting the data back and forth. They also call it My Data Superhero. So I thought that was kind of cool. What was the other one? Oh, Snatch for you down the pwn. So I just kind of laughing out of there. But all during the attack, VSS admin delete shadow copies. So they do all that. Commands executed during the attack. They're doing all right. And Super Backup Man, I like that they call it that. Here's the registry key they have for it. Safe boot. And right here's that control set 0, safe boot minimum. So there's where they execute it. So yeah, they're clever. This is a little bit more advanced than some of the other ones. So, they're trying to get in that ransomware game and realizing you got to step it up a bit because sometimes the antivirus software wins. So you turn it off. And not that I want to just keep ranting on ransoms, but this one in particular was bad because
Cockley just got raided. That's what No Stuff just said.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I heard something about it.
Okay. So 110 nursing homes cut off from healthcare records and ransomware attack.
Ouch.
This was interesting because it was my understanding, I think just a follow-up at the bottom here, I had heard at least on one of the, from a couple of people that, let's see, is there an update? No, there's an update. It was another story, and I don't have a link to it. But basically, it sounds like the company may be closing. It doesn't sound like they can recover from this. Now, they were selling this all as VDI, so the whole desktop as a service, and that's where the problem comes in because they destroyed the virtual infrastructure without backups. Oof. So there's not physical computers to go back to. And when you your entire EMR system relies on that type of virtual infrastructure, now what do? I don't even know what prescriptions, because these were a lot of nursing homes, like grandma in room 212, what do we give her?
Wow.
Look it up in the computer. Well, that's gone. And we don't have anything on-prem. There's no on-prem. So the entire virtual infrastructure they were sold is just gone. So that's really going to be a big mess. Big mess. And I think they asked for some ridiculous amount of money.
The only people that win is the lawyers.
Oh, yeah, the lawyers are going to make a big heyday. Probably they had, and their coverage is going to run out, and they're going to sue people, and it's going to wait. They were asking $14 million for this, too, which I thought was a little ridiculous, because this is not that big of an attack. This is smaller than some of the other ones. So it almost feels like either, A, amateurs did it, because the goal is to get paid. The goal is not to set the ransom bar so high that it's impossible.
Unless you're Dr. Evil.
Yeah. I mean, there's just not enough of this virtual infrastructure. Just where would they get the money? They don't have a big enough client base to warrant pulling that. You're not hitting a city that has, like, the city's going to stop if we don't do it. Okay, we're going to have to pay it. Like we've seen.
This is probably somebody that's gotten paid by cyber insurance before
and just thought they could do it again.
On it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So definitely a big mess. Big mess.
Imagine getting hit with a $14 million strain. These attackers got $8,000 strain, $150 strain, $18 million strain. Damn it.
Yeah. Damn it.
We got hit with the one botnet that does the $18 million payload.
Yeah,
Can we get the $6,000 payload, please?
And this is all sold ransomware as a service. Yeah. So there's an affiliate link in there. That way, the people who write the ransomware resell it. So the people writing it, the coders, are not the people actually doing the execution. They only get a cut of it. It's generally sold through a reseller program on the dark web, and the reseller program, they let them like, hey, whatever, we're getting a percentage, and you guys can pick the price. You pick your target, you pick the price, and we just provide the toolkit essentially to get this deployed. So you have to write the scripts or write the phishing emails to get them to the person. So it's kind of an interesting marketplace if you dive into it. It's pretty wild, pretty crazy, and they set the price, I think, a little bit high on there. Now, Atlassian, not the first time, or certainly not going to be the last time we've talked about Atlassian.
It's been a crazy year.
It's been a crazy year for Atlassian. I don't know if they're going to make the decade list, but certainly they're going to be in the list.
Definitely make the decade list.
Yeah. Atlassian scrambles to fix zero-day security hole accidentally disclosed on Twitter. So thanks, Swift on Security.
Jesus, Tay, why'd you do us like this?
No kidding. So the Swift on Security account revealed Atlassian provided a domain that resolved to a local server with a common SSL certificate for Consulants, and Atlassian companion app to edit files is preferred local application. And this is more Xavier's wheelhouse. You said this is common to do this. Essentially, what they have here is this domain, Atlassian domain for localhostonly.com, and basically by spoofing that one, it's shut down now. You would proxy things through it, is that I understand? So they just have a common domain, but then you could spoof that domain on there, and then all of a sudden, all that data passes through your spoof.
Yep.
Okay.
So something that would otherwise go through localhost is no longer redirected through localhost. It's going through attacker-controlled.
Got it. And they register valid domain, so they don't get an SSL cert error?
Exactly. So I actually grabbed the private key from the private key is actually disclosed.
Okay.
So yeah, you have the private key.
Got it. So you can just extract there. So yeah, Yep, and Tavis Normandy explains that you can just provide a private key. Nothing is stopping you from resolving this domain to something other than localhost, and therefore no guarantee you're talking to a trusted local server.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Pretty rough. Is there just a better way to do this?
So
this is like the easy way, I'm assuming.
I'm pretty sure this is how a lot of IoT is working right now.
Right.
Including the Philips Hue. I would be surprised if that's not how the adoption works on Unify. Remember, it was it's a ePIPA address.
Okay.
Or something like that. Remember, we were looking at that not too long ago.
I'm going to dig in that again now.
Yeah, right. Because that's, I mean, even if it's just an IP address, that pattern, that idea of a local only, a local link address, right? Something that's only resolvable by this particular endpoint because of some key that it has. Almost like going to http://burp. When you have a burp proxy running, it resolves that, right? So, like, that domain probably was never even publicly resolvable for people like me and you, but that instance of Confluence is able to resolve it, and it's housing that private key somewhere where you could just go grab it, and so basically you can redirect traffic and still have it flow on the same path of encryption without modifying the source code.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I think we're going to have to find a better way to do that. And this is one of those things. Things that were secure a long time ago are no longer anymore.
Yeah.
Hell, we used to use Back Orifice as a remote control application. I'm sure it's full of security holes, but it was like back in the day, that was how we started doing stuff.
I thought Back Orifice was just flat out a remote administration tool.
It was a great remote administration tool. It was just excellent.
I didn't know it was actually for professionals. I thought it was just
I don't know that you can call 1990s Tom professional in any manner. I certainly found it really fun, though.
Tom puts hacker tools on your computer.
It's like, I need to reboot this computer over there, but I'm here. It's over there. And now I don't have to get up anymore.
Tom has a tool that has a nuke button, and it actually has, like, the nuke symbol.
Dude, my favorite feature was just ejecting a CD-ROM randomly on computers. Dude, I had that on my friend's computers. Be like, kick off the command, their CD-ROM would go out, and they look at it, and they just push it back in. 20 minutes later, I'm like, just pop back out. You're trying not to sticker. You're like over. You're like, push it back in.
Man, I wonder, can we get a copy of this?
What's that?
Back Orifice.
Oh yeah, it's still out there. Because Back Orifice 2 came out, and remember when they distributed it with malware on accident? Oh yeah, they accidentally. Everyone thought they were trying to hack people. Or like somehow some goof up happened when they were making copies on. And it had malware on it. They got embedded in it, and everyone thought they were they thought the loft heavy industry people were the hacking people. And they're like, no, we're not. We just made a mistake. We're hackers, but we're human.
The first supply chain attack,
an accidental one at that. Scan for open Back Orifice servers. Do we remember what port Back Orifice used?
666. Or something. It was something gimmicky like that, right?
Yeah, we got to find the port. We're going to do this for you guys just because we love you. 31337.
There it is, 31337. So, yeah, I should have remembered that because that was, 313. We're from the 313.
So we're all going to learn together.
There's a lot of services running on that, though.
There probably is. Oh, hold on. I got to log in.
31337, guys.
I gotta log in. We'll log in real quick.
666 is Doom. You're right. Unseen.
Can't have I have more than one Shodan thing going. So there we go. Oh, I am so disappointed to find that there's only 20 boxes left.
Are they really the ones though? Are they really
I hope
Orifice?
So. Let's find out. I hope they're actually really running it. Was there any other ports? It's been so long since they used it.
DHT servers, right? DHT nodes or something?
DHT nodes. What else?
No, it's just fucking using that. There's got to be a banner.
I know, I was looking for the banner for it. Well, let's just try this.
Just type in Back Orifice. It might just pop up, actually.
Hold on. Is there one R in Orifice? Double checking. I don't type Orifice a lot, by the way. Orifice? Do we? these servers could be something that's finally offline. Could be. There's a chance. It's been so long because this Wikipedia article says back orifice was 1998. So, yeah, that's all right. The orifices are closed. And we got two more here. Let me pop these up here. This one was funny because I thought that, and it's that game of telephone where everyone just keeps misconstruing it. But the FBI basically said your smart TVs are the problem. Within a week, I think FBI said all IoT was a problem. Is what the article said, but isn't what the FBI said.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
But a lot of these TVs, one of the ways they're discounting them is, if you remember, your friendly hacker Giraffe exploited all the Chromecasts and had a great time with that. Which also made for a pretty good Darknet Diaries episode.
Yeah.
So they're talking about your TV, and there's been a couple of them because, Vizio right here had to pay $2.2 million in fines after it was caught secretly collecting customer viewing data.
I have that TV.
Yeah. Well, my thing is I had to hunt around to try to find a dumb TV. Couldn't find one. Then I realized I could get one and just not connect it to the internet. So I have a TV that doesn't connect to the internet because I use a third-party device to connect it to the internet. So yes, even though it has Chromecast built in, I'm that guy that bought a Chromecast separately, so I have control over the Chromecast and don't have to give TV internet. So
I'm that guy that has another fucking VLAN. It's called Dumb Things.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't stop that dumb thing from watching you.
I know.
But, I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. And one of the last stories I have,
at least I got DPI, so like I can see.
Yeah, I can see.
I can see it go out to the FBI. It should just be like Unify should just make a line item that says NSA raid ban or something, just like NSA ban.
Yeah.
Anything that like it can't finger, it should just say NSA. Because so much of my traffic is like, oh yeah, you just uploaded 1 terabyte to unknown, and I'm like, come on, like really? Like, did I just get hacked? No, I'm kidding.
So,
never a terabyte.
While we were show prepping over at Huntress Labs,
E-stop.
Yeah, I don't know what I have a feeling the e-stop button does something really, really bad.
Like fun.
Or fun. Depends on how you look at it. So this is from Kyle's Twitter. He tweeted this, which I thought was great. And this is a discovery while we were going through the show and preparing for the Tradecraft Tuesday show. We stumbled across a VNC server running this. It's so bad I didn't want to link directly to it. Excuse me. Because it's, an industrial control system that's exposed to the internet showing you what's going on. And it looks pretty complicated, which probably means it's controlling something expensive. And but this is also, like, in case you're wondering, there is a absolute ton of these. And we even spent time locking down a client that we took over that had their industrial control systems all exposed on the internet from previous IT people. And we got it cleaned up. And this stuff just isn't even pen tested much. I don't even think it's gone after. It's so a little bit obscure, and it's not something you really ransomware. It's more something you cause chaos with. Because, for example, with our client, you could turn on or off AC systems or heating systems in the building. You can crank the heat up, you can crank the heat down, but you don't really have much else you can do.
Turn the AC to minus 9999.
Right.
And the ICS thing is so stupid that it passes that directly to the controller. And the controller actually tries to make it negative 9,999 degrees. And then you walk in, it's negative 20, and you're like, why is my AC pumping into my server room and making it like below zero?
And some of the other chaos you can so easily cause is, especially when it gets really cold here, like we have those Arctic winters that come through. If you just flip the heat down a little bit, the pipes will freeze. Yep. So you just turn the heat off, and now you've created chaos. I don't know if there's really a money angle is the only reason it's not being exploited. There's script kiddies poking at it all day, but trust me, the real attackers aren't. They're there to make money, so they're probably not. Is their only saving until they figure out a way to make money on it? Like, I'm locking you out of the heat, and I turn the heat up 1 degree until you pay me the money. I don't know.
That's pretty rough.
There's probably some way they'll figure it out. I'm not giving suggestions here. I'm just saying.
I won't even go on this line.
But ever wonder how hackers could possibly pwn power plants? Here are 54 Siemens bugs that can explain things. Arbitrary code injection in a controller? What could go wrong? Yeah. Oh, boy.
Don't pick on Siemens because, like, you wouldn't have beer without them, so.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to pick on them because what if I don't have beer because of them?
No. People are going to definitely still use their shitty products to make beer. Don't
Yeah.
worry about that. It'll just be vulnerable beers, though.
You know, and look at this list of CVEs on these systems. Jesus.
See, but this also takes somebody having access to the system, right? Because like average attacker can't even get a lab to do this testing. Right. So somebody's doing them a favor because I can't afford the Siemens POCs, nor can I have the space to be able to put this all together because I could go out and find all of these bugs too. I think that a lot of it is access. Like right now, I could hack a Tesla, but I don't have a Tesla. You know, like you have to have access to the power wall. I think the power wall, if it has any connectivity, it's going to be something that is going to be pwned at some point. Right?
Yeah, it's a big mess, and there's a lot of CVs, and wow,
there's a lot.
And you're right, access to it's hard. It is not going to be easy. It's not like these are. I don't have any. I have clients that have it, and I still don't have any access to it. They can't just take it out of production to let me poke at it. Yeah, no. You know, and to them, it's an expensive piece of equipment as well.
Yeah, because if you burn the booch, then like, what, you get what I'm saying?
Us securing it all in a VPN was a pain because they need constantly to be monitoring temperatures. Yeah. So putting the VPN was like a coordinated effort because we had to coordinate putting each one of these buildings, VPNing them back, installing equipment, switching it over. There was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of steps to the project to make that all happen. So we've done it for a few of them now. And it's just one of those things. You can't have this stuff exposed on the internet. Yeah, check out my new craft beer called Pwned.
Yeah, I don't want to drink any of that. That sounds like poison.
Yeah, I don't need.
Remember that one time we drank the poison beer?
We drank the poison beer one day.
Oh,
that did happen.
We had some beer and it was overaged by like 2 years. There was stuff floating around in it. That sounds like a pwned beer.
Yep. So, No Self said you had the pipes freeze and they freeze when they're. So there's an interesting. The physics of that are actually kind of fascinating. The why pipes burst and why they don't burst until they thaw is you should read up on the science that it'll be kind of weird. Water has an inverted property to other things because it's one of the only things that when it goes solid it expands. Mm-hmm. All the other stuff contracts. But this is where it gets weird when the water tries to expand. Water, until it has the ability to expand, won't go freezing. So there's a ratio of how tight your pipes are wound, how tight the copper or whatever plastic is holding them in there. When it holds it in, and let's say we hit 32, there's freezing. Well, they need to expand to freeze. They can't expand because the copper's holding them in. So they go to 31, 30. Matter of fact, if you could create a thick enough cylinder, let's say something really heavy, you can get water down to the negative Fahrenheit degrees. I know 0 for you is freezing because you're in Canada. For us, it's Fahrenheit at 32. But let's say at 0 Celsius, you can go below 0 Celsius because the water can't expand. It stays in liquid form. And as soon as you open the faucet a little bit, you've released enough pressure for it to expand, and it rapidly does it and will shatter the pipes. It's actually kind of a weird physics game. Yeah, so...
Super cool.
It remains a liquid. It's under there, so it's actually kind of novel. So, yeah, higher the pressure to lower the freezing point. So, just novel science, random things. I've dealt with freezing pipes. It's a pain in the ass. It sucks. I feel bad for you. Dealt with it myself. We've had them freeze. It sucks. So that's my last I have for there.
This is what happens when you live north of Canada, where No Self is. He's over in Canada.
Oh God, it gets really cold. Well, I know. Say he's in the north part. So
yeah, he's in the north.
He's in the.
He's not where Drake's from. He's not in the. He's not in the Caribbean part of Canada.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh man. Yeah, we were explaining this while we were getting the pipes fixed. Yeah, it's just a neat physics thing. I try to glean some science out of it because you're just shelling money out. At least I'll get some science knowledge while I'm paying to get all my pipes fixed. Is there any other questions you guys have here? Anything else we need to drop on you here? We covered some OPSEC.
Everybody's asking about Mo. Mo is in DC right now, hanging out. So he left a couple of days ago. I think he'll be back next Sunday. I think he was anticipating being back by now, but I think he's having fun. So yeah, let Mo have a week off, man. Let Mo go out and do his thing. Sometimes me and Tom go out all the time and like randomly can't make the show, and this time Mo couldn't. I think this is the first time Mo actually wasn't able to.
Yeah.
It's been plenty of times me and Tom were like, yo, I don't know. I'm going to Vegas. I don't know.
Yeah, we both.
gotta go
I'm
to
flying
Atlanta.
here. I flew there. Xavier was somewhere. So Mo could have done the show by himself each time.
Yeah, so
because he's like. So now it's the opposite.
No, it's the inverse. But yeah, he'll be back.
Yep.
We'll be here next week.
Yep. And we'll sort it out because we got to figure out how we're going to do it. I like the hanging out with Xavier because he's been here. Well, you've been here an hour before the show started, right? Mm-hmm. Bullshitting and hanging out. We talk about a bunch of fun stuff.
I was planning to get down here even earlier than that, but I don't know what happened. I got time warped.
Time warped, yeah.
Time warped.
I know we misplaced like an hour over there with some pizza. He came here, ate some pizza with my guys, and hanging out.
Eat some
sriracha, hot sauce. What pen testing tool is best to master Nmap, Metasploit?
Ooh, pen testing tool best to master.
So here's the thing: Nmap is going to find the hole. It's going to find the networking layer. Versus once you're in, or even if you have an application that's mapped through the network, Metasploit's for going after that. So they're kind of two different things depending on what you're going after. So if you have someone's creds and you just need to figure out what port they're running RDP on, Nmap is your best friend. Look for the right banner header for RDP, and there you go. You look for the banner header on SSH because they're on a non-default port. So Nmap scan all the ports until you find it, and it pops to SSH. But if you first are just looking for the port and then you Metasploit them because you want to see if there's a weakness in the application layer. So it's kind of, those two kind of end up hand in hand with each other more so than learning one or the other.
Yep. And I would actually suggest people not necessarily go for Metasploit first or even second. I would say use Metasploit like once you're in a professional setting where it's all about production and getting something done extremely fast. But when you're learning and you're still like having fun, doing all of the things that Metasploit would do for you manually is pretty fun, right? So writing your own stager, getting the stager going, actually writing the shell, making it the right length for it to be able to fit in the buffer, going out, passing it, making sure it doesn't have any bad characters. All of these different things are like a part of getting your exploit to work, doing exploit development. And I think that that's really where the art of this is, and this is where a lot of the coolness happens because you go, okay, you know what? I want to change the protocol now, where the byte stream may be the same, but I want to use DNS, or I want to use SSH, or I want to, obfuscate this in a different way, or I want to pack this in a different way, or I want to use this set of characters or this character set, right? Like there's all these different ways to think about payloads and how to get them across. And so there's like these different phases of, a potential hack, right? Where you're going out and you're doing the vulnerability analysis where you're seeing exactly how your customer is vulnerable. That's a time when Nmap is probably like the most valuable tool that you will ever know. But in reality, Nmap is not something that's extremely hard to learn. It's a tool that you learn how to do a few scans in, you document them, and you know when to use those scans. You go to your documentation and you point, you click, and you keep it moving.
And a lot of times what you do is you just create little scripts and bash scripts to just kick off, like Nmap for these ports real quick. So you'll string a bunch of stuff together, put it together and be like, this is what I use Nmap for when I'm looking for this or looking for this. A lot of times you create these little scripts and toolkits because it's hard to memorize all of them because there's like different use cases for each one depending on what you want to scan.
Right.
So those are, but yeah, Nmap is definitely one of those go-to tools for things. I have a few videos on Nmap on my channel that break it down. I think I have one on ZenMap if you want it to be loaded in there. And I was actually revisiting because I need to do an update on it because the tools are a little bit broken. And this is what I was asking about a Python program earlier. I want to make, I'm going to reach out to maybe the developers that wrote the original. There's a couple of abandoned projects that I think could use some good updates. They're Nmap to XLS tools. And what it does is it creates Excel documents so you can internally scan your network with that, then create the document, also create a differential file so you can set up a batch job that just regularly scans and go, show me when something different. I need to be alerted if my network changes. And they're just kind of really basic utilities. And one of the other side about bringing them up like that is they can all run within of even like a PF Sense. So I can then turn a PF Sense into its own scanning box, even on a small network, and just kind of cron job that and say, just run this data, send it back over to me. I'm going to examine and see if something changed in the network on a really base level. And those base levels are what you need, because once something changes, now you have to go dig in, and then you get the advanced tools out. So that's about it. Hopefully those things are. Someone asked me if I had the Unified Gen 2s. They're on back order. We ordered them. They're on back order. So that'll be for more of my channel, my forum discussion. I'll review them when I get them. If someone wants to send me one because they have one, knock yourself out. But we contacted a few places.
Will the Gen 2 do gigabit with?
They're just switches. They're just switches.
So, like, what's going to be the real difference?
The Gen 2 switches are allegedly getting layer 3 capabilities, so they're going to be able to do certain.
I thought I already had L3.
No, they don't. They don't have routing capabilities. They're going to have routing abilities inside of it.
I do have routing. Oh, my controller does routing.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, if I'm in the controller, what do I get new?
Nothing really. No. Well, no. The 24 port has a 10 gig port on it now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So like we have this is the Gen 1 back here, but those are 1 gig ports.
Yep, I got 1 gig ports.
Right. They have 10 gig ports.
Nice.
So for aggregation, that way your back end you can go to a 10 gig. But
that's
then you can
a reason. That's a reason to get a Gen 2. That's
Yep.
a reason to get, because people always are complaining about, how do I get more speed for my storage? So
yeah.
there you go.
And that's the way you get the speed from the storage.
There you go.
As I have a video on a core, like their core switch, that has 16 10 gig ports on it, but people are like, yeah, but that has a price tag to go with those.
$1,800 or something?
No, it's a $700 switch.
Oh, okay.
It's still $700 for.
I'm thinking of the gateway.
Oh yeah, no, not the gateway.
The gateway is $1,800 some odd. But
do I have videos on GNS3? Not at the moment. So I don't know if I'm going to do any either. I don't really use those utilities. I always stand up my networks in my virtual lab. I don't use like GNS3 to build my network design. Maybe I should. It looks like a cool thing. GNS3, and what's the competitor for GNS3? Which one's from Cisco? One's from Cisco, one's from another company. But I think the Cisco one is free too. I don't know. It's really weird. Everyone seems to have learned on them, and I'm aware of the tool. I've always just designed and built my networks virtually. I have a few videos on how my virtual lab's set up. I'm going to do some new virtual lab videos, but they're all done in XCP-NG and a series of virtual switches. Or sometimes I on the table here, I've laid out the physical layer and stacked some switches up to show how I build things. Mm-hmm. So Packet Tracer, that's the other one.
Good old Packet Tracer.
Yep. So, all right, I think that's it. Time to go to bed.
Yeah.
We gave you an hour. Smash the like button. There's 58 of you here.
Hopefully you guys liked it.
Yeah, it's still good. It's still good to dabble in all those and learn all that stuff. So I mean, especially you can do a few things. I think in GNS3 you can go more advanced and like BGP. And BGP is not something I know very well, and it goes beyond most of the networking I do. Because if I need BGP tables or stuff like that set up, I'm usually just contacting the upstream provider to get the provisioning in the ASN and move that. I know. I would never say I know BGP like really well. I understand how it works, what it is, but I certainly don't know the command line to manage BGP. And matter of fact, we've seen enough incidents on the internet. And my friend who works for Arbor Networks, he says a lot of people that claim to know BGP don't know BGP because part of their mitigation isn't attacks. Part of the mitigation is fixing stupid for bad BGP submissions.
Right.
So,
whoops. Oh, we just announced on this. We shouldn't have announced on that. Now we are getting all of this traffic. Can somebody please come get us unstuck? Because, like, our servers aren't set up to take Google's traffic right now.
Oh, yeah.
And we're effectively not able to serve our customers.
Yeah.
Did we happen to tell you that we're a television network? And we require to have 4 nines.
Yeah, it's funny. What was the other one? Verizon, they had that disaster over the summer where a small company in Pittsburgh, very small, made a boo-boo and claimed they owned Amazon's Eastern Bloc, like the whole East Amazon. And Verizon accepted it and then propagated that rule. and they shut down a big section of the Eastern Amazon. So anyone who used Verizon as provider, which also, by the way, is on the East Coast for fiber and everything else, Verizon's like dominant in New York. Fios, and they're being sued now because cities lost access to 911 because of the VoIP systems were all down.
Wow.
Redundant links were down because of where they hosted the VoIP in the Amazon, and they couldn't get to Amazon because it passed through Verizon.
Networking is hard. I tell people all the time, networking is no joke. It's hard and it's delicate. When packets don't flow, it's not imaginary. It's not like spotty coverage. It's not like wireless where you can kind of get some of the packets. You get some static in between. No, like if a packet is not flowing, not only is it not flowing, but it's gone forever. It hit the floor. Like it doesn't come back.
It went to the bit bucket in the sky. It's all in dev null.
Right, it's gone. There's no getting it.
Yeah, so it's a
networking is fun. I had to teach a Comcast rep who didn't understand DHCP, didn't understand addressing, didn't understand gateway, didn't understand anything because he basically ruined my entire network. And I had to show him, and he was so insistent that he was doing it properly. And I had to literally show him, like, hey, we have to put this in the bridge mode. This right here gets this address. This is on the 0.1. This is on the 1.1. This over here is how this works. And his brain was just like, when it worked, because I'm like, listen, it's not hard. You know, you just gotta know it. But like, it's hard. You just gotta know it.
And that's one of those things. My job, a lot of what I do is like Xavier's dives deep in the application side of things, and I'm dive deep into the networking side.
Right.
Matter of fact, right at Xavier's feed is 50 unified devices, but that's part of that. There's some network engineering that needs to occur to make all that work at scale. Matter of fact, when we have them all adopted on the controller, there's more problems. So you don't want packet storms. You don't want noise and too many broadcast packets to propagate across because they'll get echoed across. And there's little tuning that had to be done to these. So when I do the video, I'm going to break it all down of how we did that and blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot to it. And, of course, those problems are very small when I talk about setting up Unify. An internal network, those problems scale exponentially when you get to the internet size of things. So, yeah, it's a mess. It's a lot to do. And people make mistakes. And the fact that some people like Verizon do it manually is a whole mess. Have I tried QNAP? I'm not interested in QNAP. I'm aware of them. I've heard they work fine. They're a competitor, Synology. They seem to have had more security flaws than Synology, has been my experience. I don't know if that makes them good or bad.
I could tell you this, Micro Center carries them and not Synology. And I think that's a lot of how their market penetration works. They're available at some places that mid-range and lower in NAS, because NAS is not cheap. And, you know, so like it becomes hard to put it on a shelf. Because you know, a disc station without the disc is like $500. It's $450 or something.
We've just installed. We have a lot of Synologies out there running cameras and running servers. Matter of fact, there's 2 more on the other side of the wall that just got prepped for delivery on Monday and Thursday of next week for 2 more clients we're installing them for. They're a great little box. They're expensive. But when you get to the bigger enterprise stuff, I'm still more of a free NAS guy. And if you follow me on Twitter, I just tweeted out a person who did a really nice write-up on the new TrueNAS M40s. We're going to be doing some reviews coming up with the new TrueNAS enterprise equipment. It's just, it's so good. When you get into the high-end stuff, I think that blows away what Synology and QNAS are doing. But they're not, they're nice products. They're not bad. Oh, the Ring thing has gotten crazy. I don't even want to care. I don't care about that. I think Amazon owns Ring now, right? Yeah, and they've been all kinds of privacy stuff and blah, blah, blah. Shocker.
Yeah.
You install a cloud camera in your house and you're shocked that people...
Like what did you expect? People are going to watch you.
Yeah.
There's voyeurs out there who are just dedicated to watching.
And people reuse passwords, and everyone's making a big deal of the story of them. They stuck a Ring doorbell in their kid's room, and then someone was watching their kid and harassing them through the Ring doorbell. And it's like, shocker, you use creds. I mean, don't do that. Don't put cameras on the internet watching your kids if you don't want your kids watched.
Right.
Go do it the old-fashioned way like I did raising my children. I watched them. Actually, just brought them to work with me. Couldn't trust them to be at home. They just came to work with me. Anyways, I think that's it. You got anything else, Xavier?
Nope. Nothing on my end.
All right, press the magic spinny button. We are out. See you guys next week.
Peace.